Okay, I will get started. So welcome to the Women of Craft Beer and Why You Need a Mentor. This is going to be just a really great conversation between our panel and you, and you're welcome to ask questions and hop in anytime you'd like. I am honored to have these two ladies with us. Jacki Hannon, to my left, is the National Accounts Manager for On-Premise for Bell's Brewery and New Belgium Brewing, Distinguished Vineyards. As a daughter of two bartenders who knows when to listen and when to spin a tale, she's a natural-born storyteller who is enamored by the stories of others. She was raised with hospitality in her heart to share in every aspect of life. And she's an accomplished salesperson with a passion for selling and creative marketing, cohesively blended through authentic relationship building and storytelling, leading to high successes beyond sales. This is an equally matched by love of teaching and speaking and making her an avid mentor and trainer in the hospitality industry and beyond. Jacki is our Pink Boots chapter president for the CNY chapter. She is a BA mentor for the Brewers Association, tips trainer, and a certified Cicerone. So welcome, Jacki.
Thank you. That's a lot. That's a mouthful.
She's making me tell the story. And then we're also very honored to have Jessie Smith here. She's a biochemist who started her brewing career at Houston's St. Arnold Brewing Company, where she focused in microbiology, yeast health, and propagation. She's currently the quality manager for SingleCut Beersmiths in Clifton Park, New York. She's managing the lab there and ensuring quality for not only SingleCut's brands, but the brands that they contract brew for other folks. In addition, she's recently established Queen City Quality, a lab used for testing services focused on breweries in New York State. So welcome to Jessie. My name is Dawn Schultz, by the way. I am co-owner of Prison City Brewing. I'm on the New York State Brewers Association board, also on the Pink Boots Society of Jacki. So I would like to just dive right into it. And what is mentorship to you? And Jacki, you want to start?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming and hanging out with us at our session. Mentoring is a huge part of who I am, and as a mentee and as a mentor. So to me, it's sharing. So mentoring is sharing. It's also networking, but all in that very best way. When I say networking, that makes people's spines go up, right? And the hairs on the back of your neck. I don't want to play speed networking. No, networking is about connection. So when I think about connection, it's about how do I connect these people together, or these services together, or this person's need with this person's service, so that you can make sure that everyone's getting the best outcome. That's a lot of what mentoring has to handle. I might know different people than Dawn knows, than Jessie knows, so we'll have different ways that we can have an impact with a mentee, and at the same time, I will need to be mentored every day for the rest of my life, because you need someone that helps check you, and that helps challenge you when you get too comfortable. So it's a relationship, it's communication, and connection, and going from there.
Yeah, I agree with that point of sharing the good, the bad, the ugly. I came into the brewing industry not knowing anything about beer. I had a science background, so I was able to learn from other people. Okay, this is what happens when shit hits the fan. This is the bad things that can come up in your brewery. So yeah, I like the aspect, learning from other people, using their connections, and helping to build your own network from other people.
Yeah. And that's what's so awesome about the craft beer community, right? We're also very good at sharing. Would you tell us some examples of what mentors you've had?
Yeah, so I've had a lot of male and female mentors that I've been able to learn from. So they've ranged from brewers to packaging leads, and then also quality in the lab. But yeah, even the ones that are in different departments from me, I've been able to learn so much from them. And just kind of shadowing and just walking around hey, I'm going to have a beer with you while you're doing your work. Can I see what you're doing? Tell me about this. And then starting to put together how it relates to my department. Okay, these microbes can hide in here and things like that. Yeah, but then also female mentors through the Pink Boots Society. That was kind of in the second half of my career. being able to connect with women more and just having a totally different experience with having women mentors. And I think we'll talk about that a little bit more after.
I too started in the beer business many, many moons ago. There were not a lot of people who looked like me when I started selling beer. So one of my very first mentors is a gentleman named Andy Gersten. Some of you may or may not know him. He was my brewmaster at Sackett's Harbor Brewing, and Dave Mavoli, who was at TJ Sheehan at the time. So those two men taught me beer like I never thought I would ever learn it. I got hired out of the restaurant business and event planning business to be the event coordinator for Syracuse Beer Week. I remember we got to an event and I was like, yeah, I don't really like beer. And he was like, you do now. Okay. So Dave mentored me through a lot of really sticky, weird situations, and he would be there, to cry on his shoulder, but at the same time to push me and prod me, and he still challenges me till this day, even though we don't work together. And we've been on every side, where he's been the supplier, I've been the distributor, I've been the supplier, he's been the distributor, he's been my boss, I've been, like, you name it, and we have kind of gone through the gamut with it, so it's been really neat to keep that relationship going. Andy Gersten is one of the most patient men in the entire world who I've ever met, ever, and he taught me beer. He taught me how to, use my senses. He let me in the brew house with him. I definitely shouldn't have been in the brew house with him back then. I was so naive, but really that's where my love of beer and my patience for others comes from as a mentor, was being mentored by somebody who could be that patient with me and really help me get through those next steps. And then throughout, sometimes you're looking for people that are not in your industry. You're looking for people that are on completely different paths that are going to be your mentors over time, who you can call and who are going to be drop dead honest with you, right? Like, they're not going to candy coat it. They're not going to do any of those things. So they'll let you cry, they'll let you cry it out, and then they'll challenge you to get to the next step. But those were the first two that came to mind. And she hates it when I say it, but Dawn as well. So I won't get into it too much because she'll be mad at me.
No. Tell us a little bit more about why you should even want a mentor, and maybe, segueing after that into some current organizations that you're associated with.
Yeah, so again, like what I said before, learning from other people. That way you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You're learning from their mistakes, and then you can actually prevent that from happening in your brewery. In my case with the lab, a micro infection, learning from other breweries, okay, this is how they found it, this is how they identified it and eradicated it. Why not use their experience and take that to my next brewery and be like, hey, let's watch out for this thing because I know it could come up. But then more formal mentorship, I've been through the Brewers Association as well, mentoring, and Pink Boots too. And so you can have an informal mentorship. You're just talking to someone, you're having a beer, and then there's more formal versions like the Brewers Association mentorship program, where that way you're paired with someone that's interested in or in the same field as you, and you can kind of work with them, go through the steps, figure out their learning style, figure out your teaching style and how they work together, and create the best kind of mentorship that you can for them.
I'll piggyback off of that, especially on the Brewers Association mentorship. So when you have dedicated mentorship programs, it's been proven time and time again that people learn more quickly, that the retention rate is higher, and that in addition to that, entities become diversified more quickly or more thoroughly. So what's happening is that you're taking different people across a panel. I happen to be a BA mentor, and I have a very focused set of skills on more what we would consider front of the house, right? So whether that be sales or taproom management or event planning, any of those kind of things, I'm going to be more involved in that. Whereas your next mentor might be Jessie, and she's really talking you through the quality control and a lot of the science stuff that mystifies me and amazes me every day. So you get to go through this set of steps. In those programs, I think it's incredibly important to listen to your mentee and understand what it is that they're trying to get from the program. They might have to do 8 different topics, and your topic might not interest them. So maybe I'm doing taproom management or event management, and that's not an area that they would spend a lot of time in. We can go over the basics of that, and they can become more well-rounded, but I'm going to pick and choose things like time management, that maybe I can help teach them time management, talk a little bit about self-care, talk about setting boundaries, talk about putting systems in place like for events, and then you can use those across. But if you're mentoring someone, I think it's really, really important not only to listen to them, but watch what they're doing. And I'm a homework assigner, so I need to know that, like, if you heard, listened, and I want you to be able to give me back in your own voice what we did or what we talked about, so I can make sure you're getting the most from the experience. So Brewers Association, Pink Boots, local guilds, and I would say even to step outside of the industry, talking about things like chambers. You're going to see a lot in your local chamber, your economic development committees and sections. There's a lot that can happen in mentorship that goes beyond our industry, and then look beyond beer. So National Restaurant Association sometimes, or Women of the Vine and Spirit, if you're looking for something for women specifically, are some other ones. Dawn, can you think of any we skipped maybe too?
Not off the top of my head, no. And maybe you guys know about some.
I know, I was like,
Yeah,
if
we
anybody
don't,
knows
so,
any,
yeah,
please.
By all means.
The SBA has.
What's that?
The SBA has it.
The SBA? Yeah.
That's a
Makes
great
sense.
one.
Especially, in terms of opening a
I-
business and finance and, yeah. What kind of mentors should people be seeking out? And you kind of just touched on that, but can you say, in terms of if somebody's here and what should they be looking for, and what kind of mentorship should they expect?
I would say anyone could be your mentor. You can start with, like for me, starting in the lab, starting in quality control, people where I can get a lot from them, but then someone from sales or accounting or marketing. You can pick up all these little things from anyone. So I wouldn't discount anyone to be a mentor. They can always have some sort of background, some story that you can relate to and that you can take into your own field. So yeah, and I say the same thing about sensory panels. Starting up a sensory panel, you want to try to include everybody because everybody has a different palate, male versus female, different experiences. Someone's a heavy drinker, someone doesn't drink as much, and you're going to get different palates. Same thing with mentorship and seeking out a mentor. Anyone can be helpful to you.
Who do you respect? Who do you admire? So there are people in this industry or overall, that you respect and admire. Maybe it's, I'm just going to throw out Tony Robbins for no reason other than everybody in the room would know that name. Maybe that's someone that you follow. You can use somebody as a mentor, like James Blunt is a big one in sales. You can use somebody as a mentor by following their readings and doing things like that, following their blog posts, following them on LinkedIn, reading some of their books, spending time, without going to a $10 million seminar. Those people are essentially mentoring you through their works that they've put out into the world. So the same thing with BA and Pink Boots and all of those places where you're finding information. But in your day-to-day, maybe there's somebody in the distribution tier, if you're in the supplier tier, that you think, wow, that person's a badass. Strike up a conversation. I will say an old term, we used to call them pen pals.
You're dating yourself.
I know, and I'm okay with that. I've been in this business a minute. But we actually, at our breweries, have something called a brew buddy. So we offer and kind of put out that we want to be part of, that's right, we know when to bring that. Where was your favorite session now?
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much.
How to Win Friends and Influence People by...
Help yourself to some people.
Please, come grab a beer. So we have a program called Brew Buddies, and they actually pair us with people that aren't in our own department. And so my brew buddy is a quality control person in Asheville, right? So if you have some of that capability within your organizations, it's a really great way to get things started and make it just part of what we do as opposed to something that's, super extra. Thank you, Julie, for being the first one that comes up. Everybody else follow Julie. She's a leader. This shows, that's right, come on up. Julie, will you pick one for me?
Yes.
Please.
Why do you feel that women need specific mentoring and organizations, mentoring organizations?
Going for starters, if you're good with it. This is my favorite soapbox. So, here's the thing. We're going to experience things differently, and this is just part of that men are from Mars, women are from Venus kind of analogy when the way that the world is seen. So there's been a lot of studies that have been put out there on how men and women specifically approach situations. So I'll give you this example of a job application. So you go on Force Brands or wherever, and you see that there's a position open for, and I'll just say National Accounts Manager because this specific thing happened to me. So National Accounts Manager position is open. I look at it, and there's about 15 things on there that are the qualifications list. So as a woman, and I did this personally, I look at that and I have I can solidly say 8, maybe say 10, and I question whether or not to apply for that job. I feel like I need another class, I need another certification, I need another level of experience. I've done a ton of sales and I've been all these levels, but I haven't done that, blah, blah, blah. My counterpart that is male may look at that same thing, and statistically they would have the same 8 solid 10, and 90% would apply for that job and be like, I got this! And I need so much more of that in my life, right? So when I went to apply for the national accounts position, I knew the boss. I might have known him as a mentor for a very long time. And I actually called him and said, do you think that I could do this? Do you think I'm qualified? And he was like, what? Do you? I'm like, if I totally did, would I be calling you? This is not part of the interview. But just... So I want to be the person out there saying to other women all the time, and why I think it's important for women to have these organizations to say, I know what's happening in your brain right now. And I know that those things are stuck in there, and you're not going to say them out loud, right? Because when you're in an industry where you're underrepresented, you don't want to admit some of those weaknesses and some of those. I was scared. It's okay to be scared. And so I want to say to people, yup, be scared. Let me tell you why you're amazing. Let me tell you why you should do this. But more so than that, let me get you to tell me why you should do this. Let me get you to tell me why you're amazing and why you're qualified and why you are a badass. And let's take the scariness away and go from there. And that also is sometimes a conversation that somebody else can't have with me that's another sex, that doesn't identify as I do. Because now it becomes am I having this weird conversation? Am I being too demanding on this person? Am I doing these? And I just mom every time. So I go back to that as my, alter ego. So yes, please, have women's organizations, talk about things that happen. When we went through our very own Me Too movement, Dawn was one of the first people I reached out to because we thought we did so much work 20 years ago to make sure that people weren't feeling the same things that I felt when I was in my late 20s. And to find out that it was still happening really angered me, but also upset me. It made me start reflecting in to say, where did I go? I just thought it had ended, so I haven't been as active in this specific community in beer to say, we're right here. We will listen to you. We will guide you. We will, I don't mean to say protect, but be here to help you learn to protect yourselves. So I think that that's something that's still very necessary out there. Told you it was my soapbox.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I guess kind of piggybacking on that Me Too era that we had, I relied so heavily on the Houston Pink Boots chapter because it was a way to communicate with these women and say, is this normal? Where I think I got comfortable with some of the behavior that was happening and then needed some perspective. No, that's not normal. That shouldn't be happening, but you kind of can get into a routine with that. So having Pink Boots was amazing, and we had, specific meetings where we felt safe, we felt comfortable with talking about some of our issues, to vent where, a male counterpart, I wouldn't have felt as comfortable, or I might not have felt as listened to, that they might not have fully understood. But then also on that same thread, I have had, men mentors where they say to me, no, Jess, you know what you're talking about. Go for this. Put in this proposal. So you can still have men mentors that back you and support you, but it is something different about having that women's organization, that community, that support, that when you're in a male-dominated industry, it's just like that little bubble that kind of makes you feel safe.
Yeah, for sure. Tell us a little bit about how people can get the most out of a mentoring experience. And Jessie, maybe if you'll speak to that.
Yeah, so if you are the mentor, I would say, you know, kind of what we were talking about through the Brewers Association, a formal mentorship situation, finding out how your mentee learns best. So when I was doing the Brewers Association mentorship, I would give them a list of topics and say, all right, what are you most interested in? Let's pick 3 or 4. We'll break them down, and then we can circle back. We can go through other topics again as we need to. But then also learning if, you know, if they're better with reading, if it's, you know, speaking to them, or if you're able to be in person, if it's a visual thing. So I'm going to have someone shadow me, or I'm going to give them an SOP to read. Whatever's, you know, better for them, and my own personal learning style, where I'm like, I need to watch you do it and I need to see how it's done, where other people might be like, no, give me the SOP, I'll read it and I'm good to go. And then as far as being a mentee, asking questions constantly and kind of knowing the strengths of the person that you're mentoring under. So let's say I'm working with someone who works with barrel-aged beers, or the barrel-aged program. I know I'm going to ask him specific questions about, you know, barrel-aged microbes, or how long to have certain beers sit in the barrels, kind of honing in on their specific strengths and just kind of taking whatever you can from them.
Jacki, maybe pass this off to you. What does it take to be a great mentor?
You can all be a great mentor. So that was one of the things that I think I waited too long to realize. Like, I was very firm into being a mentee, but didn't realize that I could be a mentor. And for a lot of those same reasons that I talked about earlier with why we should have some women's organizations, you have something that you're amazing at. You really do. And you could be 10 days into something and somebody's 1 day in, and you still have some experience there, right? And so, excuse me, what I like to tell people though is to do things that you're passionate about as a mentor. So if you find an area that you love speaking about, it is not always what you're best at. Do you understand what I mean when I say that? Like, I'm Jacki and I'm in national accounts, and so I should talk about this specific item. But I'm really passionate about time management and self-care. So what can I do to talk about those things within whatever I'm mentoring on? We all are real busy, right? We all have a lot of responsibilities in a day. If mentoring becomes one more thing that you're dreading, you're not being the best mentor that you can be. And your mentee deserves more than that, right? So to me, it's knowing I can be a mentor. What am I really great at? And what do I really love working with people to do? What is it that charges me? What gets my engine running for when I'm working with people? And to me, it's seeing them succeed. And I think for a lot of us, right? Or when you see the light bulb go on above their head and they figure something out, or they're really excited to show you that they did this item. So try to remember those kind of things as you're putting together a mentoring schedule, or where you're going to mentor, or who you're going to mentor. And then just really engaging with your mentee. So you can talk at anyone, but making sure that they're understanding and that they're going to, after your 1 hour together, 1 week, 10 weeks, 1 year together, that they're going to be able to take that information that you were sharing with them and going back and forth with and still use it. When I get calls out from some of the breweries that I've worked with the BA mentorship, and they're like, check this out. I'm like, oh my God, great job. I'm so excited for you. And when you can go to other states and whatever and see them, it really is so amazing for you as a person. And I always say to look for what you can learn from your mentee as well, because we all have talents. So even if you're being mentored, you have something that you're sharing back to your mentor. So know that as well, but use as many senses as possible, right? You talked about you like to see somebody do something, so if you can see it, hear it, taste it, write it, all of those things help when you're mentoring or training people, and making it their experience and checking in with them consistently for learning and understanding, and that you're on the right track for who they want to be at the end of the experience, right? So all of you can be mentors now, I'm sure. So think about those. I would love you all to take a moment and think about what it is that you could be mentoring in straight away.
Perfect, thank you. And then I'm just gonna kind of keep talking a little bit, and if anybody wants to raise their hand or has any questions, you know, we've got some time now to just really have good conversation. So please, by all means, throw your hand up. I'll call on you. But I had a question. Would you just talk to us about the logistics of how you became a BA mentor? Like physically, like do you go on their website? And Jessie, maybe could you tell us how you went about applying to be a mentor or be a mentee?
Yeah, pretty similar, probably, right?
Yeah, I think I just went on the website and saw it popped up, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then, yeah, through the website, and then they have, I think Discord is the online platform. So you're able to see other mentors, mentees. They have different categories for different resources. And there's a lot more with resources now. So people will put up documents and things like that. So then you kind of have access to all of that. But yeah, I was just on the website, go through some emails, some applications, and it's pretty easy. And then you get set up with your mentor or mentees, and you get a very clear schedule of, I think it was 12 weeks. And so every 2 weeks you get a different mentor in a different category. So quality, front of house, marketing, it's all split up like that. So you get 2 weeks with your mentor. And then it's up to both of you how often you want to meet, if you want to do phone calls, Zoom, how you want to do it, or just send documents back and forth. And again, it's that thing of being a good mentor, learning how your mentee best learns. If they want to have, you know, an hour-long Zoom or do some shorter ones, kind of being able to pick out. So it was really nice to have the 2 weeks where, you know, you could split it up. All right, we're going to have a couple hour-long lectures, or we're just going to chat little bits here and there, and just split it up with however it worked for both schedules. It was really easy.
So we just started a cohort. I start with my new mentee on Monday. So at least a couple times a year, you will see it kind of go out on the BA website. There's a call for mentors and mentees. They try to put it out in as many associations as possible. I know we mentioned it during our Pink Boots meeting that there's another application process, and they're always looking for mentors and mentees. And they're consistently changing and upgrading and refining how they're doing this. So now it's 3 weeks, which I'm so happy about. This is our first time of 3 weeks. 2 weeks sounds like it's great until it's done. It's great for the first one, maybe even the second, but once you get past that, suddenly you're like finishing up with somebody from the 2 weeks before, and you're trying to start with somebody new, and things happen. So there's 3 weeks, and they actually have employed a platform that they use now for communication in addition to Discord that I think is going to make it great. Talk to me in 6 months. I'll let you know what I think about all of the new things that are happening. But there are 3 different sections. So there is, kind of like craft beer enthusiasts moving into the industry, advancing professional, and then brewery startup. So they're making sure that your mentors are on your track, as it's called, so you can make sure that you are getting what you need out of the mentorship as it is. And there's no cost. And there are some stipends that you get throughout as a mentee that you can use. And you'll do some cool things, like some of the people that do tastings send kits, and I'm a big one on books. You know, I'm like, oh, you want to do that? I'll get you the book, please. We'll get you that book. If that's something that they're into, and constantly sharing resources within all of those platforms. It's an amazing, amazing program that I encourage everyone to do mentorship-wise.
How much of time commitment is it as a mentor?
A minute, yeah. So, you're making a commitment, and I think that that's something that people didn't necessarily realize right away when we started doing this. So you're going to commit, I would say, at least 3 hours a week to it during those sessions, because you are having that hour-long Zoom, but you're reading documents back and forth, or training you're doing back and forth, and you're prepping for them. Like, I'm finding articles and getting them to them, and really kind of trying to go back and forth, or researching their websites, or doing those kind of things. So I would say that 3 hours and mentee-wise?
Well, it depends on if your mentor is giving you homework. I know you said you like to give out homework. But yeah, pretty similar. And then planning ahead for your next mentorship session. So yeah, about the same.
Anybody have any
Is
questions?
there a mentorship section on the Beersmiths website?
They do.
Look, we all look back at Julie.
I know, where's Julie?
I don't think there's an official membership or mentorship section. It's kind of as a mentorship, right? Like,
In Pink Boots?
Yeah.
yes.
I don't want to jump the gun. We're actually working on like a formal Pink Boots mentorship program.
The one thing that the Pink Boots has is a scholarship program, which you can apply for, and a lot of those scholarships include certain things that would be considered, a type of mentorship. It might be working underneath another brewer, it might be working on a marketing program, might be working with quality control, and so they have these scholarships that they put out, and it's quarterly, and there's quite a few of them, so you can apply for that, and although it's not direct mentorship, it's getting a lot of the same results.
Nationally, I think within the organizations, within the chapters, you see a lot of what I would say naturally occurring mentorship, right? Where there's communication and talk and people are really looking to each other as mentors within the organization. But that's really exciting, Jolie. Not that you're, we didn't hear it here. We didn't hear it here first.
Nobody's repeated.
No, we didn't hear it.
But I do know it does happen like randomly, organically. So like, that's why that community forum space is so important because a lot of people can jump on there and say like, I'm going for Cicero Level 3. Does anybody want to do like a study group? And then you can like pull people from other areas. So the more that you get on there, you can kind of specialize. And there's like informal ways to do it. So. Yeah.
That's really great to mention the community forum because the questions go up and I think it's like that beautiful hive mind, right, of everyone being able to talk to each other. You just said Cicerone level 3 and it was like, both of us.
I'm working on 3. We'll see. We'll see.
And then quickly on the scholarship, I got a Pink Boots scholarship maybe a few years ago, and it was, it was a malt quality scholarship, so I got to go to Fargo, and it was, it just kind of, it comes out sometimes, but yeah, it was such a cool group of people that now these are lifelong friends and women mentors that I've gotten through it. And it was at a university, I think University of North Dakota, and those professors have been my mentors since. I've been able to email them with really specific malt quality questions. And this scholarship where I was like, okay, I'm just gonna learn from them and take it and go, it ended up being this thing where I have these lifelong connections, and it was the greatest. So I would say, and I'm now on the scholarship review committee, so apply to scholarships. Write out a long essay, put all your feelings out there, because I like reading about that, and just apply to all of them if you can. They're just so useful.
Sorry, go
Speaking
ahead.
about accessibility, I'm from the middle of Long Island, and I would love to get involved with the Pink Boots, but I noticed there's not really anybody in the middle of Long Island involved with Pink Boots, so like, how do we reach out and become a part if we're not in the city or like towards upstate?
I'm looking at Jacki for
We're
this
gonna
one.
tell you because we were in the same boat.
I'm like, let's talk about it. Do it. Just do it. Whereabouts in the middle of Long Island?
Suffolk County, North Babylon.
Okay, fantastic. I spend a lot of time on Long Island. I'd be happy to come down and hang out and chat it through at any time. Julie remembers me begging her for a Pink Boots job. Like, I don't know how we're gonna do this. Dawn and I have been working on it, I'd say maybe 18 months ago, and then like 9 months ago we got it, right? And so we sat at our Pink Boots Brew Day 2022, and I stood at the front of the room, I think tearing, about how I felt that women were disappearing from the distributor level especially, something that I've noted and noticed that is concerning to me. And although we're doing all of these studies and I see women growing in the other areas, I see them disappearing and vanishing in that tier, and said to people like, we just need 15 people. And that's literally what my call was. So you've got enough beer friends down there, and I think I have probably at least 5 beer friends down there in that area that we can talk to together. and really start to make it happen. You just talk about it every time you're out with any of your local peeps and you sign them up. It's $45, 55, 45, 55, 45. I think it was 45. $45. So you get everybody together and you just start talking about it. And I had a text and an email saved on my phone that gave the exact steps to sign up, right? Like, and you're gonna get to this page and hit this button here, boom, boom. And have them do it without putting a chapter in to begin with. That's fine, or they can put another chapter and switch, but if they don't have a chapter in there, then when you're ready to go, boom, you have those 15 names, you get them all down, and you're ready to go. Julie, do you wanna add anything to that, or Dawn?
No, I just think that, so I joined the Pink Boots Society, I can't remember exactly, but maybe 2014 or 15. And 2 months ago was the first meeting I've ever attended.
Oh, wow.
Truly. I joined New York City. I'm 5 hours away from New York City. I could never go. Buffalo opened a chapter. Still 2.5 hours. Not really going to happen. And then there was one, of course, in upstate, which was also about 2.5 hours. So as much as I wanted to attend and be part of it, and I would be on the forum and I would be trying to be engaged, it was hard because I didn't have a spot to go. So therefore we ended up talking and saying, we're missing this kind of gap in central New York. Let's start a chapter. So, you know, if you're up for the task, then that might be the best way to go and get your own chapter going.
Find a good partner in crime. You have to have a president and a financial liaison, but find a good partner in crime that is going to be having the talks here. Dawn came home from here last year and was like, Jackie, I have 17 numbers. If we get 7. And I was like, yup. So, you know, have talks with people that are near you while you're at events like this, right? And kind of just keep it going in that way would be our biggest suggestion. It's super cool to see it come to fruition.
You don't have to have 10.
Oh, that's right. Sorry.
No, it's
Oh, they say you do, but
they
Julie
say
doesn't.
that you do, but you don't. I promise. I approve new chapters, so.
Yeah. Julie, what's your title with Peaches?
Oh God, who knows? It's changed a lot. I was the leader of the Denver chapter because I live in Colorado for a long time, and then I'm the chair of the chapter committee, so I'm in charge of being the liaison with chapter leaders from every chapter all over the globe, and then sometimes I jump in on the education committee and the membership committee, but this is my first year on the board, on the national board. But if anybody wants to help me with chapter leadership stuff, I have to find somebody to replace me. So, you know, but we tell people if you have a chapter leader and somebody that wants to do finance that can just monitor your chapter funds, if you have at least like 5 or 6 people, it's not going to be like rigid on getting your chapter approved. So grab 5 friends.
There you go.
And if you feel like driving to Rochester, Syracuse, Auburn area, we would love to have you be part of our group.
Come hang out with us. We have a lot of fun. And we learn a lot.
Yes. That's all that we have for, you know, just the general session, so still open to questions. One other thing that I wanted to talk about, if we could, is that the New York State Brewers Association is working on setting up a mentorship program on the state level. As members, you would all have access to that. As members, we would like to ask you to be part of the committee for that and helping to set that up. So if you have any interest in working on this, you know, whether being a mentor or mentee, we'd love to have your feedback on it. You can email me or write your name down up here, and we'd be happy to put you on that initial email and get the ball rolling, because sometimes, you know, a nationwide mentor is great, but maybe something specific to New York might come up and be helpful. So we would encourage you to do that.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
They keep talking to us. It's fun when we all talk together as opposed to us talking.
Do you have any contacts for the people who are in the city, just in case I can't organize people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah. Before you go, we'll get your email and I'll connect you with the chapter leader there.
And always know that you can be a part of the Pink Boots Society and not part of that specific chapter. And so you'll have access to all of that community forum. You'll be able to see events going on. So if you're traveling through the state, you might see something happening. you know, around the state that you might want to attend, or the country, really. It's been, when there's a GABF or when there's CBC, usually there's events that are happening around that you can go to.
I love that. I'm always so active learning and like actually hands-on doing things. I was part of something else. And it was more so like standing around watching other people do things and like, I don't know, I felt like it was less educational and more so like photo op thing. And I love brewing and being a part of everything. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and that's a great thing about the Pink Boot Society specifically, is it is very education focused. It's all about education. So while I'm also have a Girls Pint Out group, which you could also set up, Girls Pint Out is about getting together and being social and just having drinks and you know, cheering each other on. But Pink
Actually,
Boots.
I know all about that.
Yeah. But Pink Boots is really about education. So Jacki has set up, you know, a whole year's worth of education for our group, including, you know, off flavors training, hops and harvesting hops. We did a chocolate and beer pairing, food pairings, not your hobby marketing group, safe bars training. You know, so there's a lot of fun things that Pink Boots Society kind of pushes you to do because of education, and that's, you know, we all want to learn more. Other questions?
Or comments, if anybody knows about any other organizations that are in New York State when we're talking about mentoring organizations and we couldn't come up with any.
Girls Point Out, that's a good one.
It's a fun one.
That was really fun.
Yeah. There's what's the other one? Harley's, Barley's.
Oh,
Barley's
Angels.
Barley's Angels.
Are they still around?
There's a couple here and there, I think.
But to be honest with you, I did join it. I've never done anything with it. No one's ever contacted me. I don't know if they're in existence still or not.
And there are some, you know, like Girls Pint Out, or like we have Salt City Women of Beer. Sometimes it's great to have the perspective of both, right? So being able to be at like a Pink Boots meeting or a BA meeting or a New York BA meeting, like, and being amongst your peers, but sometimes it's really good to hear from the consumers too, because you're like, oh, okay. I had no idea, right? Like, so having that is kind of neat too, that other perspective.
And then another thing about Pink Boots, they have a national conference every other year, so that's a great way to, and there's seminars put on, a great way to meet people throughout the country, different chapters. It's a great networking event.
Agreed. Charlotte was fun.
I didn't
Oh, it was fun.
Oh, you have the Michael J. Jackson Scholarship Foundation for Brewing and Distilling, which I know is kind of, it's, I don't know, I think because of its relationship with Garrett Oliver and the ties to Brooklyn, it's not necessarily New York based, but it is very focused. If anybody wants another scholarship opportunity, you can apply through, I think it's MJF Brew and Distill. I think that's the website.
Other questions? Well, we can all just dive into that beer and have a social
Right?
10 minutes. Go ahead.
More of that. Some of my previous job, I was sort of pushing forward with the internship path, and I found it very discouraging because it was always unpaid or very stipend-based pay. So how does just the mentorships that you all have been involved in, are these people who are doing other jobs in the industry, doing jobs outside the industry, hoping to get into the industry? You said that there's a stipend for supplies. How does, in a world of unequal pay, how does that link your time versus the time of the mentee? I was just curious about compensation and both in what you got out of that, and like just the differences.
Zero compensation. But this is like my 6th term doing it. So for me, it's about my heart and my soul, feeding it back and giving back to the community. I work, and the same thing for Pink Boots for me locally, right? Like, so I work very on a national scale. I walk into corporate boardrooms more than I walk into bars these days. So it gives me that piece of my beer legacy and heritage and being able to give back, especially to younger folks coming into the industry or super frustrated people my age who decided to have a brewery and then we're like, wah! So giving them some of that, and they're not getting paid either, so they're working full-time jobs if they're not in the industry. I had a couple of engineers at this point who want to open breweries, which makes sense to us, right, but probably not to anyone in their family. So having that, and then they would get a stipend for some of the supplies, but there's no payment on either side, and you are taking time away to do it, but that's part of me giving back to my community.
So it's having the seat at the table in those boardrooms that's just the importance of that representation.
For me, yeah, it's just to give back to the people that are growing in the industry so that they maybe have it 1 second less hard than I did coming up in it, right? Or that they have a path that's, they have 4 paths they can choose that are defined to choose from.
And I had an experience working at a brewery where we needed someone else in the lab. So we did kind of an internship thing, kind of a part-time. And the one woman that we had, she was a bartender. So she came in, she was doing stuff. So at first, I was mentoring her, training her just to help myself out. It was a very self-serving thing. It was like, all right, got to train her on this. And then it turned into a mentorship thing where she was like, I might want to be a brewer. So I was like, okay, here's your base knowledge that you would need for brewing. And now she's the head brewer somewhere else. So it was just this kind of, it was for me all the way through it too. Being able to train her, but then seeing the satisfaction of seeing her grow and blossom into a beautiful little brewer flower.
Yeah, I think that, going back to the Me Too movement, we, as women, or female identifying, really felt like the industry had gone a long way, and I specifically coming into this industry didn't really feel a lot of discrimination or anything like that. I worked with great guys, great women, the craft beer industry is so embracing, so reading that, I remember sitting down on my couch and crying and thinking, I might cry a little bit now, and thinking, gosh, I really had my head in the sand that this was happening in our industry, and I shouldn't, because it's happening in every industry. But it was a really eye-opening moment, and I have a daughter who's 20, and I thought, it's my job to do as much as I can to try to make that better for her going forward and everybody else. So it's not paid, but it is incredibly rewarding.
And important. Fulfilling. Yeah. Beautiful note 10.
I know. I was like, let's see.